Jesus reached down and he pulled him out. He pulled him up out of the waves. And he said, "Why did you doubt? Why did you doubt?" And I don't think Jesus was doing it as a way of berating Peter, but just kind of a reminder that, Peter, you were doing it. You were walking on the water. You were coming to me. Why did you look away? Why did you stop? I think he was just trying to direct Peter's attention back to where he got off track. And Jesus does that out of love, not out of anger, not out of, "I told you so. I'm so disappointed in you." But it's out of love because he doesn't want us to sink. He doesn't want us to get overwhelmed with the situation. He doesn't want us to lose out to our tribulation or to get so overwhelmed and discouraged by it that we stop serving him altogether. Instead, he points us to that moment where we messed up, that moment where we started to doubt, that moment where we lost faith, that moment when we got our eyes off of him. And he said, "Why did you doubt? Why did you doubt?" And of course, he walks with him to the ship, and they both get in the ship. And the minute Jesus is in the ship, everything's fine. The seas are calm, the winds are calm, the rain ceased, the storm stopped, everything was calm. And the disciples marvel. They marvel. And I have to wonder, remember I talked about how this was up at the tail end of the feeding of the 5,000. I have to wonder, those baskets full of fish and bread that they had left over, I have to wonder where those were. If they were somewhere in sight, where they could kind of keep looking over and say, "God did that. He can help us. Jesus did that. He can help us. Jesus did a miracle. He can do miracles." Or if they were tucked away out of sight to where they couldn't be that reminder. I think that's why it's important to keep like a blessings book or a prayer journal where we can go back and see the things that God has done for us. We can write those things down, the way he's answered prayer, the way he met a special need, the way he came through when we didn't even know we needed him to come through. By keeping track of those things and keeping a journal of those things, it helps keep those things in our mind and in our focus when we start thinking, nothing ever works out right for me. Or it's just been one trial after another. I leave one storm and I come into another storm. Or we start wondering, where is God? We can look at our journal, our blessing book, whatever you have that you want to use, and we can say, there he is. There he is. There he is. And we can remember that God came through for us then. Maybe not exactly when we thought he would or should, and not exactly in the way we thought he would or could. But he did come through and everything worked out, and we're still here and we're still going and we're still serving. It's sometimes we can see the blessing side of it, how it worked for our good. Sometimes we're still left to question, I don't get how that was good. But we got through it, and we're on the other side of it. So yes, while we may have had to go through the storm, at least God got us through the storm, and he was with us in the storm. And so these are the things that I learned from this story here. So many different things about just knowing, one, that just because we're facing a storm doesn't mean that we're out of God's will. Now, yes, sometimes God does use trials to get us back on track if we are out of his will, but a storm does not necessarily mean that we're out of God's will. The disciples were in God's will. They were doing what Jesus commanded them to do. And then the reminder that sometimes when we're going and we're going and we're rowing and we're trying and things just don't seem to be working out, to remember that we're not alone. We're not alone. Jesus is giving us the strength to keep going, to get through. And when we're asking ourselves, where is God? Where is Jesus? Why isn't he here? I don't see him working. Those are the times that we need to just trust his character and trust his promises because we can't necessarily see what he's doing. A lot of times Jesus works behind the scenes and we don't get to see what he's doing. But the Bible tells us he is working all things for our good and for his glory. And we have to just trust during those times when we can't see. The disciples couldn't see him, but they could trust. They could trust. And then, of course, there's the lesson of Peter stepping out in faith. Sometimes stepping out means going out of our comfort zones, out of what makes us feel right, what makes us feel good. Sometimes God asks us to do, but we need to keep our eyes on him so that, one, if he wants us to go a different direction, we know which direction to go, but also so that we are leaning on his strength and his grace and his guidance, not our own. So keep your eyes on the Lord. I don't know what storms you may be walking through today. Like I said, I know we all face storms. Sometimes it's a storm here and a storm there. Sometimes it feels like it's storm after storm after storm after storm, or just one long, non-ending storm. But whatever it is, we can walk through those storms with Jesus, knowing that we're never alone, that if we know we're in his will, that we can just keep going and keep doing what he's asked us to do. And just keep trusting that he will work all things out in the end. And walk with him in faith, trusting that the storm will pass. It may not be when and how we want it to, but it will pass. And in the end, we'll probably be a lot better off for it.